Welcome back to What Are You Saying, the realest podcast in the world. I'm Osama. We are the realest. Oh, man, I messed up the intro. That's not right anymore. We're back with another episode. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
We don't have water. We're just getting
Yeah, I'm good.
we're just getting used to this new studio because the thing is too is like we're also kind of still getting used to this whole area.
Yeah, it's a new setup, new format, new medium.
Still no works.
Still no worse. So it's gonna be slowly transforming as we keep going along. So if you see changes, do not be afraid. Or if you have any cool suggestions, by all means, let us know. So with that, today's topic is just the idea of people. Now, what does that mean? Obviously, we're humans. We know that, alhamdulillah. And with that, we have rules, we have moralities, we have principles, ideologies, philosophies, religions. And even amongst all those things, there's similar things that are in time as far as global troops, universal troops, and stuff like that. Now, the main idea, message, and theme of today's episode, it's really those who think they can abuse, take advantage, dehumanize, and not face any sort of backlash, any sort of accountability, any sort of repercussion in their lifetime. They think as if they go untouched. It's literally like someone that has nails that's like 20 feet deep and you're crawling on the ground and they're just taking each hand and slowly piercing it down your back. And you're still trying to crawl the way out of freedom and stuff. And whoever that being is, that creature, that villain on top of you, think as if they could go away without being untouched, unprovoked, and unaccounted for. And we know that not to be true when you talk about history and you talk about life and how things always come back around full circle. And the reason why I was thinking about this, I just can't. We talked about Israel, we talked about Palestine, we talked about the occupation, we talked about the ongoing onslaught against the Palestinian people, and it's still going until this day. And not only this is a nightmare, this is something that should not even be happening in the first place. And we look for accountability, we look to leaders, we try to do everything the right way as far as trying to find the measures that's applicable to ensure the safety, livelihood of a marginalized group of people. And the request is very simple. All they want is freedom to their land, rights to have a land, and also to have an established government, just like any other state in the world. But for some weird reason, that doesn't seem to be the case. And for some weird reason, it's being harder and harder. And for some weird reason, leaders that we look up to, that we follow, that we stand behind, that we put our dollars and tax dollars in front of, think as if they are acting on behalf of the best interest of the public. Now, when it comes to the public, we are obviously divided when it comes to certain things like this and even other matters. But even beyond division, what about human rights? What about human thoughts? What about human principles when it comes to doing the right thing? My dad always told me, always do the right thing. So when it comes to such a predicament, like what's going on back home, to our loved ones, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, grandparents, and as well the children, when you see images, when you see videos, and we hear statements and recounts of people having to flee from their land and their homes, having to deal with the amount of bombs and shootings and horrors, just trying to get a meal, as well as trying to find peace amongst piles of bodies and visuals that you don't want to see when you're in the hospital. What does humanity looks like? What does true justice looks like? This is why we don't put faith in humans. We look to God, someone that's all knowing, all just, and powerful, because he exists outside of time and space. He's not a creation, he's an uncaused cause. And when you know that, you realize that life is a test. And with that test, there's going to be things that's going to happen that's going to make you want to do certain things, and it's going to make you things that's not going to make it as easy. But that's the way of prophets and messengers, because they went through the greatest of trials and tribulations, and how were they able to handle it with God's mercy, show them the lessons as far as what we can do when we go through such a similar thing. So me, obviously, I'm an outsider. I'm only speaking as someone that's seeing it. I haven't lived any of it, so I can only imagine what it's like. But even on a smaller scale, I'm talking about school, cyberbullying, that's something online. Even back then, bullying when we were younger. It's that people that take advantage of others and think they don't have to answer for it whatsoever. But time happens. You continue to live. We know that it's maybe not until 15, 20 years later, that same person was a bully that was so prideful, strong, and bold. All of a sudden, it's down to their luck, not the best of jobs, social status, home situation. and they are struggling. And who knows, they might walk around day and night and day, trying to figure out this main question: what caused my life to be like this? Not knowing that it could have been tied to the onslaught, pattern, behavior, neutralization of someone's emotion and experience for a certain time in their life. So when you do this to millions of people and for decades upon decades upon decades, what do you think the outcome is going to be when things come in full circle?
I know before we were recording this topic, we were talking about a lot of things, but this topic is so interesting. I know we mentioned Palestine and Israel, which we'll probably get to later down the episode, but I want to start with a quote which always stuck with me. It's like the oppressors have now seen like they're the right doers, and the people who are oppressed seem like they're the ones who are wrongdoers, they're complaining. You see it amongst the Palestinians being oppressed, and they're viewed as the people who are wrong. You see it amongst even in a local scale where the person is getting bullied, but they're viewed as they're wrong because of they don't fit society's image, and the person who's doing the bullying is getting encouraged. Yes, yes, yes. Because the public media has that power. We're able to change the narrative of what the oppressor is able to do. When someone's going through something, a friend is oppressing them for in whatever way, we are now siding with the oppressor. And you see it with what's happening in Congo, with what's happening in Sudan, with what's happening in the Middle East, Palestine included. It's absurd. And I say this because I'm not only because I'm Palestinian, but I want to talk about the more local micro scale aspect of it, because you cannot bully someone or oppress someone and think you're going to get away with it.
Of course.
There's a day of reckoning.
Yeah.
There's a day of judgment.
Yeah.
You know, we recite Surah Al-Fatiha and every 17 times a day. And one of the verses is Malik Yawmiddin, God will judge me, not you. And the beautiful thing about God will judge is God is just.
Yeah.
He's the most forgiving,
Mhm.
but he's just. When he knows you've done something wrong, and the beauty about forgiveness is when someone's been truly oppressed, they're not going to forgive you because you took their right away from them. And if you do forgive them, amazing soul. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can defend you because the oppression does not go away. One of the biggest sins is when you actually oppress someone, take someone's power. One of the biggest sins when you kill an innocent soul. These are innocent people who are being oppressed. And you think you can go smile about your day knowing you just like messed up someone else's day? No, that's truly unfair. Now, does bullying happen? Yes. Does that make it right? Does oppression happen? Yes, but does it make it right? But the people who are watching, the people who are been subscribed to our channel, subscribe to other channels on our big platforms. My question is, why aren't you speaking out? The people have millions and millions of followers. We always want to go talk about, for example, DJ Khaled. Forget DJ Khaled. The ones who have actual brains and can actually use their brain to think. When you see someone being oppressed, are you scared to lose your followers that much because you're standing up for something that's correct? Because now you'll be deemed as cancel. You get canceled. That to me is a sellout. It's funny because you have this conversation between you private all the time about oppression and oppressing your friends and belittling your friends. We're not talking about teasing your friends back and forth like you're roasting, you're being playful. We're not talking about that. Oppression is taking someone else's power from them and making them feel like they're nothing. So you see it, for example, on a different scale. I'll give you a different idea. I've always said that people always say the hijab oppresses women in Islam. Disagree. You ask me, I think the media oppresses women because the media is saying what? You're only able to look beautiful dressed up in what? In a bikini, in a certain sort of way. Wouldn't you say, to play devil's advocate, wouldn't you say that's oppression? But we don't look at it. But when you talk about the final point of oppression, why are we picking and choosing to say, this is oppression to me, that's not oppression to me? I don't believe that this is a genocide. I believe this is a genocide. Where do these narratives come from?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like when you're oppressing someone, not only is the power, but it's the freedom and the access, the accessibility to resources, food, shelter, the things. Because all these things compound. Like when you're enabling, like you said, the media, we're enabling such behaviors and such patterns that allows people to attack others based on hypocrisy, on hate, on systemic oppression to ethnicities, crown religion, etc. When you do these things, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to continue because no one is accounting for it. No one's telling the person to stop. And people, obviously, one big thing is fear, false events appearing real. When you have such a microcosm, you do not want to take that step as far as telling the unjust ruler, person, governor that what they're doing is truly wrong. And I don't know, at this point in human history, for me, it's like, growing up, it's funny. My dad always said humans are losers. And when I was growing up, I'm like, I don't know why he says that, right? Because when you're in school and track and meeting and all this stuff, cross country, sports, the goal is to get gold, 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 and stuff, whatever, right? But it's not until you get older and you go through experiences and you see the world and events and catastrophes, and you see the reaction and the reception and the so-called solution from these people that we give all our power and trust in the manner we give our trust to, and what they do is a total slight, it's a total disrespect, dishonorable way of, as far as a solution, a probable solution to the people. Yeah, it makes you understand that humans were truly losers because we really choose our own desires and what we want over the well-being of our so-called brothers and sisters.
Even when you talk about in Islam, I know like we're talking so much about secular, but even when you talk about like Islam, Pharaoh and Pharaoh oppressed Musa alayhi salam, the people of Musa, no oppressor in history has ever got away with his oppression.
No, no.
No, the thing is, you think you're getting away in the moment. People do not forget. When you look at, for example, Pharaoh, he's not looked at in high regard. And if you do, you're just crazy.
His body's still preserved.
Body's still preserved.
Example
Living is God said
for us to learn.
For us to learn, living example, your body's gonna be preserved until the end of time. Now imagine the end of time is another million years, right? We don't even know how many years is between us and his time. Imagine, for example, hypothetically, we've got billion, million, thousands of years. Your body is preserved, and if you're Muslim, you know that like the amount of pain that you could be going through because you oppressed one of the most respected prophets that God has put down on this earth. I want to talk about a secular standpoint regarding friendships, for example. Oppressing. When you oppress, we just said you're taking of someone's power. And I believe if you're doing that because you want to feel powerful, great, strong, and we had this conversation with one of our friends. He always talks about this idea of like powerful and strong and being a leader. A leader is also a great follower. All the great leaders were great followers. And the biggest example is lead by example. I'm not going to ask you to do something, and I'm going to get to my point. I'm not going to ask you to do something if I'm not going to do it myself. Similarly, I should not have to oppress you to do what I want. Because if you have to use oppression as a way to get your point across, you're not a good leader. It's funny because you're wearing the Michael Jordan pants. I want to use Michael Jordan as an example.
Yeah.
Well, Michael Jordan, you can look at it as he oppressed his teammates. Like he was a great teammate. Everyone always says he's a great teammate, but a lot of people said he ridiculed. A lot of teammates said he ridiculed them. He was hard to work with. He belittled people. That's not a true sign of a leader. A true sign of a leader is someone like yourself or anybody else could take you out the hand and be like, I can help you. I do not have to disrespect you to like make you learn. This whole mentality is backwards. And I think regarding my original point regarding friendships is that when you take something of someone's power away, which I believe the media does really well, when the media tells a woman that the only way you look beautiful is by wearing a bikini, by wearing like certain types of clothes which are deemed provocative, or when they tell a guy that you have to do this to get that out of girl, that's oppressing your mindset. Why can't just be yourself? And oppression can be looked in so many different ways. Oppression can be looked at, we just mentioned media. The media can oppress you by making you believe a narrative which is falsely true. Obviously, you have tyrants and governments who are oppressing their people.
Of course.
We speak about Palestine and Israel, but places like in Africa, other parts of the Middle East, other parts of Europe, people are still being oppressed. Yeah, people are still being oppressed amongst friendships, amongst marriages, even sometimes amongst families. Like parents could be, uncles and aunts could be holding you to your own will, which is a sign of oppression. But I believe, subhanAllah, to the Muslims out there, we one time had this conversation. When you're in a present, a dua of a person who's oppressed is so accepted. When you see the people of Palestine, the people who are being oppressed, due to a circumstance which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tested them with, their dua is accepted because they can easily retaliate back or do something on the level of, or oppress back, which isn't the right solution. In these very moments, if you go back to the Muslims who are watching, if you go back to the stories of Musa alayhi salam and Prophet Muhammad, who's being oppressed by, his own tribe, the tribe of Quraysh, there's always a lesson that you can learn. Oppression is never the answer, and unfortunately, we are what's the word I'm looking for? We're celebrating oppression. Oh yes, they're being oppressed. Yes, get these immigrants out because the media knows what they're doing, and certain people will, for example, if someone's bullying someone else, you'll have those friends. Yeah, man, good job, man. That guy deserves it. When did we start to like cheer for the bully and make fun of the person who's getting oppressed or bullied, which is so sad in nature? And yes, it happens. And yes, I've personally seen it. And the thing is, reputation, we allow our reputation to matter more because we want to keep our jobs. Or you see, for example, a manager abusing a girl because she decided not to, be with him. Sign of oppression. There's so many ways you can look at it.
And even on that point, I was gonna say that until you brought it up. Like, one, you're a coward for oppressing O in such a way, blackmailing her in such a way, for her to get a job, state of livelihood, that she has to conform to such acts, the primitive acts, in order for her to keep her job, to feed her family, take care of herself. So oppression comes in many ways. And even the whole idea as far as the hijab, like it's modesty. Essentially, it's the concept of modesty. So when you have these new waves as far as feminists, and obviously women fighting for the rights in the past 3 decades, something came 1,400 years ago that's already came as far as rules and principles that allowed women to have the right to divorce, even the alimonies, voting rights, own their own properties. Many of these things 1,400 years ago existed with the induction of Islam. So it's not a religion that oppresses women. You don't even need us to speak. You can have women themselves or Muslims talk about the beauty and the attributes that this religion has provided for them on a social, as far as economical, and a private and personal lifestyle as well. Because you see the nuances and layers, how it varies. So when someone wants to oppress somebody, for example, like the woman, it's like, hey, you I want, but I don't respect your intellect. I don't respect your skill. I don't respect your hustle. I don't respect your hard work. If you do X, Y, and Z, guess what? This ability to a better lifestyle is guaranteed. But that person carries the weight, the trauma, and emotional, physical, sexual, mental abuse for the next 20, 30, 40 years. A secret. Because that owner might think it's never going to come out. But guess what? These things do come out. Why? Because nothing lasts forever. And whatever oppression you think that you might have over someone eventually does come out. So you have to be careful and you have to be accounted for. So that's one thing if you are doing it. But if you're from the side points and you see it happening to someone that you know and that you love, figure out the best way, means, and
The best
possible
solution.
solutions to address it and take care of it. Because if you can't let these things permeate,
Yeah.
because you don't know how long it's going to take for someone to have that breaking moment. And that could be stabbing, shooting, harming even themselves before harming the other person. That's been oppressing them because it's been too much.
Course, I feel like if you have a friend or you know someone that's being oppressed, whatever situation it might be, so important to be there for them because in times of oppression, sometimes we do go and start thinking, sometimes, and I just want to preface sometimes, not all the time, sometimes we do start thinking like, okay, should I press back? Should I bully back? Because the thing is, when you're oppressed, of course, is a test. Everything is a test in this life. Even recording this podcast is a test. Even if one day we become bigger and bigger as a test. If you become successful in your career, it's a test. But specifically about oppression, it's such a huge test because in that very moment, whether you forgive or you don't, that's up to you. I believe whether you do or you don't, it's up to you. But it's how you respond is what's the
Of
most
course.
important thing.
Of course.
Because a lot of times you could easily go kill someone, to your point. You
Yeah.
can go you
Yeah.
can go hurt someone, you can go do whatever. But in that very moment when you're oppressed, right? There are like whether it's a family thing, it's a friend thing, it's a work thing, you can take the legal route, you could make dua against them, which you're entitled to, by the way. You could work on yourself and like make yourself successful. But I don't the thing is that to people who are listening, if you're younger, you might look at bullying, oh well, just teasing. Yeah, but how far are you going with this teasing? Because a lot of the times you see suicide rates since COVID have risen. You've seen a lot of people die because they speak up the truth. It's funny. One time you asked me a question, not even a question. You asked me to write a poem similar to this topic about, I guess, saying oppression and speaking the truth. And I kind of related it to Palestine because I'm Palestinian. But the thing is, too, I think a part of the poem I said, I was paraphrasing it because I forget what I wrote. It's actually almost a year from. It's almost a year ago around this time. I said, I'm being attacked for something that I said, even though it was truthful. But one day I hope that people could see me in the light. And essentially, to go back to earlier point, Pharaoh right now is not seeing the light. People like Hitler is not seeing the light. And there's a lot of oppressors who are oppression is happening right now. Down 50, 30 years from now, they're gonna be like, ooh, the people who actually stood with them are gonna be ashamed that they stood with them. Even us, we're media, we can easily manipulate you based off certain things that we say. Like I could easily say to everybody, as an example, if you don't watch hockey, we're not going to give you, for example, free merch. If I got to start watching hockey, I'm not going to give you free merch. Is that not oppression or not? It's oppression because I'm taking your willpower because I'm saying you will not get certain stuff from us if you don't do exactly what I say. So be careful to the words that people tell you, the words that people say, because in our previous episode, we spoke about intention. and haram versus halal. And oppression is not only haram, it is so haram because you're taking someone's power away. To all the sisters that feel like they're being oppressed by the media in terms of what to dress, don't listen to them. To all the brothers that are listening to his alpha male context saying you have to be a certain way, don't listen to them. They know what they're doing. The media knows what they're doing. When you see oppression, speak up for it. I don't care if no one speaks to you ever again. I would, because if you do listen, if you do keep what you're doing to go about your partner, you're a coward. If you're a manager trying to sleep with your employee, you're a coward. Anybody who, in my opinion, who oppresses someone else, in my opinion, come at me, you're a coward. There's not have to be any moment where you go and have to oppress someone. If you don't like someone, address it. If someone has hurt you, address it. But to oppress them, to belittle them, to make them hit rock bottom, you're a coward.
And even then, beyond just like talking about oppression that's happening in the world, whatever context, any scale, if you are someone who doesn't feel comfortable or feel like you don't have the skills to talk about or advocate it, because maybe you don't have a large following of people you don't know, but all means, whatever skill that you do have or do possess, utilize it to help out. If you're good at typing, help out with typing out letters to your local governors and MPs. If you're good at web design, help create websites. That's going to give people more events and information about what's currently going on. If you're good at designing, help design posters. So people who are running organizations can help spread that out so the information is getting out there. So donate. If you do have a lot of money and affluence of wealth, by all means, do give charity, which is a very positive means as far as helping those in needs, because these people still need access to food, water, and shelter.
To add on to your point, do you know the beautiful thing about people who are being oppressed is how they don't lose their hope in Allah.
Resilience.
They're so resilient. The easiest answer to the Palestinians. Look how in the past 2 years, this October, look how much things they've gone through, the family that they lost, not losing hope. In times of oppression, whatever it might be, whatever you're going through, there's so many things that can be considered oppression. Sometimes you're not at work. Sometimes they could tell you at work, yo, if you don't dress like this, well, I don't think that you're gonna last as long. Or if you don't talk a certain way, who should tell you? This is not. No one should ever tell you how you can speak or how you can dress. Oh, of course. Like my point is, like if you're Muslim dressed in a abaya, and they say you can't dress that at work, then at that point, I wouldn't even try to fight. I would leave. I'm not gonna be in a place where I'm not accepted. To be honest, the thing is the easiest answer is to go fight, but be resilient. Connect with Allah.
And yeah, when it comes to oppression, once again, the Palestinians are so resilient through the acts of terror, through the acts of murder, and people who do it grin, celebrate, boast. Yeah, those people think as if nothing is going to come about and that life will truly continue to be, you know, flowery and stuff. That's not the case.
Yeah,
Not the case. It's not the
I
case.
think my last point to this would be if you're oppressing anybody for any reason, not only are you a coward, but I fear for your akhirah and your day of reckoning with Allah. Because it's funny, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive anybody, but Allah cannot forgive on your own behalf. Like when he knows his servant is upset, because no two people can enter heaven when one's upset. So let's say, for example, someone oppressed me and you, they're gonna be like, well, Osama and Muhammad are so mad at you. Go find them and apologize.
While they're still alive.
Huh?
While they're still alive.
While they're still alive, go find them. Because the thing is, no one can enter heaven from a Muslim perspective when they hate each other. So imagine how many trillions and trillions of people. You don't know where you're going to be in the day of judgment. So imagine someone has to go find you. I'm like, please, Osama, please forgive me for how I did this, how I did this. Now, that is so scary because the thing is, too, you already do so many sins. And at this point, people are taking, me have had conversations about this. People are taking deeds from each other at this point. I did this for you. You didn't thank me. I did this. I did this. So imagine the ones who are oppressed. I actually fear for you if you're oppressing people. That's the sad part. I feel for you. That's my last word. May Allah
step away,
ask for forgiveness,
not enable or prolong, and ask for forgiveness and do right to the wrong things we're doing to those who are on the onslaught of your wrongdoings. Because when time ends and you did not change those things, so be it. On the day of judgment, that scale, you don't know which side's gonna be more heavy. So obviously you want that good deeds to be more heavier because once again, whether it's from giving someone $5 or get money for gas, earn something, everyone's gonna come on that day with what they're owed because they need to be in the best favor to get where for them. Nobody wants to spend an hour, a second, a millisecond on Jahannam, which is hell. With this time, we have to reflect, we have to try to do right, whether we realize it on a minor scale, major scale, let's do the right thing before it's too late, inshallah.
Inshallah.